Okay, I'm going to jump back a paragraph in context.
Charlie Worboys, reading from Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison.
Okay. The point now is that I found a home, or a hole in the ground, as you will. Now don't jump to the conclusion that because I call my home a hole, it is damp and cold like a grave. There are cold holes and warm holes. Mine is a warm hole. And remember, a bear retires to his hole for the winter and lives until spring. Then he comes strolling out like the Easter chick breaking from its shell. I say all this to assure you that it is incorrect to assume that because I'm invisible and live in a hole, I am dead. I am neither dead nor in a sense of suspended animation. Call me Jack the Bear, for I am in a state of hibernation. My hole is warm and full of light. Yes, full of light. I doubt if there is a brighter spot in all New York than this hole of mine, and I do not exclude Broadway or the Empire State Building on a photographer's dream night. But that is taking advantage of you. These two spots are among the darkest of our whole civilization, pardon me, our whole culture. An important distinction, I have heard, which might sound like a hoax or a contradiction, but that, by contradiction I mean, is how the world moves. Not like an arrow, but a boomerang. Beware of those who speak of the spread of history. They are preparing a boomerang. Keep a steel helmet handy. I know. I have been boomeranged across my head so much that I now can see the darkness of lightness. And I love light. Desire light. Love light. But maybe it is exactly because I am invisible. Light confirms my reality, gives birth to my form. A beautiful girl once told me of a recurring nightmare in which she lay in the center of a large dark room and felt her face expand until it filled the whole room, becoming a formless mess while her eyes ran in bilious jelly up the chimney. And so it is with me. Without light, I am not only invisible, but formless as well. And to be unaware of one's form is to live a death. I, myself, after existing some 20 years, did not become alive until I discovered my invisibility. That is why I fight my battle with monopolated light and power. The deeper reason, I mean. It allows me to feel my vital aliveness. I also fight them for taking so much of my money before I learn to protect myself. In my hole in the basement, there are exactly 1,369 lights. I've wired the entire ceiling, every inch of it, and not with fluorescent bulbs, but with the older, more expensive to operate kind, the filament type. An act of sabotage, you know. I've already begun to wire the wall. A junk man I know, a man of vision, has supplied me with wire and sockets. Nothing, storm or flood, must get in the way of our need for light, and ever more and brighter light. The truth is the light, and light is the truth. When I finish all four walls, then I'll start on the floor. Just how that will go, I don't know. Then when you have lived invisible as long as I have, you develop a certain ingenuity. I'll solve the problem. And maybe I'll invent a gadget to place my coffee pot on the fire while I lie in bed, and even invent a gadget to warm my bed. Like the fellow I saw in one of those picture magazines who made himself a gadget to warm his shoes. Though invisible, I am in the great American tradition of tinkers. That makes me kin to Ford, to Edison, and Franklin. Call me, since I have a theory and a concept, a thinker-tinker. Yes, I'll warm my shoes. They need it. They're usually full of holes. I'll do that and more. Now, I have one radio phonograph. I plan to have 5. There's a certain acoustical deadness in my hole, and when I have music, I want to feel its vibration, not only with my ear, but with my whole body. I'd like to have 5 recordings of Louis Armstrong playing and singing, "What Did I Do to Be So Black and Blue?" all at the same time. Sometimes now I listen to Louis while I have my favorite dessert of vanilla ice cream and sloe gin. I pour the red liquid over the white mound, watching it glisten and the vapor rising as Louis bends that military instrument into a beam of lyrical sound. Perhaps I like Louis Armstrong because he's made poetry out of being invisible. I think it must be because he's unaware that he is invisible. And my own grasp of invisibility aids me to understand his music. Once when I asked for a cigarette, some jokers gave me a reefer, which I lighted when I got home and sat listening to my phonograph. It was a strange evening. Invisibility, let me explain, gives one a slightly different sense of time. You're never quite on the beat. Sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. Instead of the swift and impenetrable flowing of time, you are aware of its nodes, those points where time stands still or from which it leaps ahead. And you slip into the breaks and you look around. That's when you begin to hear Louis's music. Once I saw a prize fighter boxing a yokel. The fighter was swift and amazingly scientific. His body was one violent flow of rapid rhythmic action. He hit the yokel 100 times while the yokel held up his arms in stunned surprise. But suddenly the yokel, rolling about in the gale of the boxing gloves, struck one blow and knocked science, speed, footwork as cold as a well-digger's posterior. The smart money hit the canvas, and the long shot got the nod.